Hey everyone, welcome back. I wanted to interview a deck for you that I just got from Kickstarter. It's called the Little Light Tarot, and I got this because I backed the project, and here's the little bag it came with. I hope you can see it. There we go. And so I wanted to interview this deck just to get a feel for it and see what it's like. So here is the back of the card. And I think it's just a beautiful little deck. And it's called the Little Light Tarot because it takes a more positive approach to tarot and the interpretations in general. So I wanted to do this, and I really like it. I have a couple more decks from Kickstarter coming soon, so we'll see how or when I get those. So I'm quite excited for it. So the first question I'm asking is, what is your personality? Interesting. The second question is, what are your strengths? Third question is, what are your limits or your weaknesses? As I try to organize my cards. When should I call upon you for guidance is the fourth question. Fifth question is, how will you challenge me? Last question is, how will you inspire me? And don't mind as I shuffle forever, because I want to make sure that I pull the card that feels right. Okay. So the first one is, what is your personality? And here we have the King of Swords. And what I like about this deck is that each of the cards has a little a little word or phrase on it that really kind of encompasses the card in general, for what the creator made, or what the creator feels what this card embodies. So we have the King of Swords, and the creator, Daria, put mastermind. The second question, what are your strengths? We have the Chariot, and the little descriptor is balloon sky. Limits and weaknesses. We have the King of Cups, and the descriptor is courage. When to call upon you for guidance. We have the Three of Pentacles. The descriptor is lunar chorus. How will you challenge me is the Knight of Pentacles, and that's steady step. And last is how will you inspire me? We have the Queen of Pentacles, and the descriptor is nourish. So I think like with this deck, the personality overall with the King of Swords is just that it's a very logical sort of deck. And with the descriptor as mastermind, it makes me think of the MBTI personality of the INTJ or the ISTJ kind of personality where it's very logical, it's very linear, which is interesting in this deck because I don't see it that way at all. And I think that in this instance, I think that the King of Swords should in its own way be reversed or kind of more like this. So I think that with that kind of like know when to bend the rules a little bit. And I think that that's a good way of looking at this deck is know when to bend the rules and when to break the rules. So strengths are the Chariot. And excuse me, I think that's a really great card for this deck because it's just a very determined deck to be positive, to be something that is that's like good for the sake of change, something change for the sake of change, determination for the sake of change. And so I think that it's really important to recognize that. The limits and the weaknesses for this deck as the King of Cups is that it can be emotional. And I think that maybe in a way it's kind of contradicting itself in this sense because it's really just talking about how you should really follow the rules, but also at the same time, it can be very emotional and maybe not necessarily look at the world through the rose-colored glasses that you really look through the world through. So I think that it's kind of important to recognize that like it's a bit of a contradiction, but I think that it's kind of like courage with this card. That's the descriptor is courage. And I think that looking at the world in a positive light is not always, the best kind of way of looking at the world, because I think that in this sense, this deck is really positive in general. And so I think it's kind of looking at itself. It's being kind of reflective in that way. Next is when to call upon you for guidance. We have the Three of Pentacles. And so with the Three of Pentacles, it's about working together, building those strong foundations that you have with other people, that maybe like bringing people in and allowing others to help you is really kind of the message here. And how will you challenge me? We have the Knight of Pentacles, and the little descriptor is steady step. I think that the Knight of Pentacles is really kind of challenging me or everyone who resonates with this deck to really kind of take that step. Even though it's a little bit scary, take that step and really kind of focus on what it is that you really want to do with yourself. So right now, for example, I tend to think a lot. I talk myself out of things. And I think myself out of things because I am afraid, right? So this card is really saying that this deck will challenge me to really get out of my comfort zone and to move forward through the challenging and difficult feelings and emotions, as well as those challenging thoughts that maybe I may talk myself out of something. So I think it's kind of interesting that it is very spot on for me, especially. And lastly, how will this deck inspire me is the Queen of Pentacles. Really, this is a lot of like Virgo energy. The little descriptor is called nourish, and I'm getting a lot of also a lot of Empress energy here, very grounded feeling of reminding myself to come back to myself. Like when I'm out here in the clouds, just to remember that not everything is so cerebral, and that, you know, really kind of meditating and grounding myself in the right mindset is important. So I think that with this deck is very spot on for me. And I'm going to just do a top and bottom read too, because I think that this is such an interesting deck. It takes, you know, the more positive aspects of tarot, and I like that. I like that it does that. So let me just shuffle and get a top and bottom read. Okay, so for the top we have the Ace of Pentacles, and the little descriptor is called Starcatcher. And lastly, on the bottom, we have the King of Wands, and that descriptor is Rooted Crown. So I think this is really kind of a nice conclusion to this little deck interview. So later on, I will publish something or post something that will be, you know, something I haven't done in a while, a little reading. So anyway, bye everyone.